I always felt a little invisible whenever my sister-in-law, Brittany, was around. She was like a human firework, loud, bright, and impossible to ignore. From the moment my brother, Tom, first introduced us, she commanded every room she entered. She had a flashy job in pharmaceutical sales and loved to talk about her expensive purses, her designer shoes, and the fancy vacations she took several times a year. I was the complete opposite. I was quieter, happier with a good book and a cup of tea than a loud, crowded party. I worked as a project coordinator at a growing tech company called InnovateX, and I truly, genuinely loved my job. It was steady, challenging in a good way, and I was good at organizing people and timelines. But next to Brittany's glamorous, high-octane life, my quiet contentment always felt a little small. I never minded much, though. We were just different people with different personalities, and I thought that was perfectly okay. I didn't know then that she looked down on me for it, that she saw my satisfaction as a lack of drive. I remember one Sunday afternoon perfectly, a day that is etched into my memory with painful clarity. My brother, Tom, was hosting a family barbecue at his beautiful suburban house. The sun was warm, the smell of grilled burgers filled the air, and everyone was laughing and having a good time. Brittany, of course, was the center of attention. She stood by the shimmering blue pool, a colorful cocktail in her hand, holding a small crowd captive as she told a story about closing a huge deal. And the commission alone was more than some people make in a year, she said, laughing a loud, tinkling laugh. I was sitting at a patio table a little ways away, just listening and enjoying the atmosphere, feeling the sun on my skin. I was genuinely happy for her success. I never felt like we were in competition. Our lives were just on different tracks. I guess I was naive to think she felt the same way about me, that she respected my path as much as I respected hers. That's when she turned her laser-focused attention to me. Her eyes, sharp and assessing, scanned my simple, off-the-rack sundress before she fixed a smile on her face. It wasn't a warm, sisterly smile. It was the kind of smile you give someone you feel sorry for. "So, Sophie," she said, her voice cutting through the other conversations like a knife. The group around her quieted, turning to listen. "How's things at your little job? Still just coordinating things for other people?" I smiled back, trying to be friendly and not show how her tone grated on me. "It's going really well, thanks," I said, keeping my voice even. "We're launching a new project next week, and I'm helping to get all the pieces organized. It's really interesting work." I thought she'd just nod and move on, but she didn't. She tilted her head, a gesture I now recognize as condescending, and let out a little, dismissive laugh. "It's cute that you're so happy with that," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Then, she dropped the bomb that would change the course of my life. "You know, Sophie," Brittany said, her voice loud and clear, ensuring everyone in the backyard could hear her. "You have no ambition. You're stuck in this comfortable little rut, and you're too afraid to climb out and chase real success." The words hung in the air, heavy and toxic. The cheerful chatter around us died down completely. I felt my face get instantly burning hot. It was like she had physically slapped me in front of my entire family, my parents, my aunts and uncles, my own brother. My mom looked down at her plate, unable to meet my eyes. My brother Tom looked deeply uncomfortable, shuffling his feet, but saying nothing. I forced my lips into a tight, strained smile, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I think I need to get some more potato salad," I mumbled, the weakest excuse in the world, and I quickly turned and walked away from the table, my vision blurring with the unshed tears I was desperately trying to hold back. I didn't get more potato salad. I walked straight through the house, my steps quick and unsteady, and went straight to the guest bathroom, locking the door behind me. I leaned against it, sliding down to the cool tile floor as silent, hot tears finally streamed down my face. Her words replayed in my head on a cruel, endless loop. No ambition. A rut. Afraid. Did everyone in my family see me that way? Was my quiet, steady, happy life something to be pitied? Was my contentment a character flaw? The hurt was so overwhelming it felt like a physical weight on my chest. But after a few minutes, as I sat there on the cold floor, something else started to stir deep inside me, cutting through the pain. It was a spark of pure, undiluted anger, and then a fierce, stubborn determination I didn't even know I possessed. She was wrong about me. So completely wrong. I wasn't afraid. I was just on a different path, a slower and steadier one. And I was going to prove it, not for her, but for myself. I was going to build a success she couldn't mock. I drove home from that barbecue a completely different person. The raw sadness was still there, a dull ache in my heart, but it was now buried under a mountain of cold, hard resolve. That following Monday morning, I walked into the InnovateX office with a new focus, a new energy. I went straight to my manager, Ben, a kind and fair man in his 40s. Ben, I'd like to take on more responsibility, I told him, my voice firmer than he was used to. I want to learn everything I can about project management and leadership. I want to understand the big picture. Ben seemed surprised, but genuinely pleased. I immediately started staying late, not just to finish my daily work, but to learn new project management software and understand the bigger strategic goals of the company. I signed up for online courses in management and business finance. I was done forever with being the quiet, invisible coordinator in the background. My company, InnovateX, was growing incredibly fast during that time. We were landing new, impressive clients every month, and the projects were getting bigger, more complex, and more exciting. Because I had made myself so available, so reliable, and so eager to learn, I was naturally given more important and visible tasks. Then a pivotal moment arrived. A key team lead in the logistics department left suddenly for a competitor. Ben called me into his office. Sophie, I need you to step in and lead the logistics team. It's just for now, temporarily, until we can hire a replacement. I was nervous. Leading people was new territory. But I swallowed my fear and said yes. It was a small team of just 3 people, but it was mine to lead. It was my first real test, my first step onto a new path. In those first few months as a temporary team lead, I discovered something amazing about myself. My quiet nature, the very thing Brittany had so publicly mocked, was actually my greatest strength as a leader. Because I wasn't loud, I was a good listener. My team members felt comfortable coming to me with problems and ideas because they knew I would actually hear them out, not just wait for my turn to talk. I was naturally organized and remained calm under pressure, which helped steady the team during stressful deadlines. I learned how to break down big, scary projects into small, manageable steps that didn't overwhelm anyone. Our small, once overlooked team started to excel. We began finishing projects ahead of schedule and under budget. The praise from upper management felt good, a balm on my wounded pride, but the genuine respect and trust one earned from my team felt infinitely better. It was real. The years passed in a blur of hard work and steady growth. The small, 3-person logistics team I once temporarily led grew into a large, vital department as InnovateX expanded. My consistent, quiet hard work did not go unnoticed. I was promoted from temporary team lead to permanent manager and then, 5 years after that awful, life-changing barbecue, to director of operations. It was a huge, demanding job. I was now responsible for the entire operational infrastructure of the company, making sure all our departments, from development to sales support, worked together seamlessly. I had a big, quiet office with a window that looked out over the city, and I led high-stakes meetings with important clients. I had built this career, this life, through steady, consistent, and determined hard work. I was so profoundly proud of what I had accomplished, all on my own terms, without becoming anything like Brittany. Through occasional chats with my family, I heard little updates about Brittany's life. Her flashy pharmaceutical sales job wasn't so flashy anymore. The company she worked for was struggling, facing new regulations and competition. The big, easy bonuses she had always flaunted had dried up. My mom mentioned, with a worried sigh, that Brittany and Tom were feeling the financial pinch and that Brittany was aggressively, desperately looking for a new job. I felt a twinge of sympathy for my brother, who was always caught in the middle, but I have to admit, I felt very little for Brittany herself. She had built her castle on sand, chasing the quick win and the big show, while I had been slowly, carefully, and deliberately laying a solid, brick-by-brick foundation for my future. One ordinary Tuesday, about 5 years after my promotion, my boss, Ben, who was now the vice president of the company, called me into his office. "Sophie, close the door, please," he said, his tone uncharacteristically serious. I sat down in the plush chair opposite his desk, my mind racing, wondering what was wrong. "It's about the sales manager position in your division," he began, steepling his fingers. "As you know, Laura is transferring to the West Coast office at the end of the month. We need a replacement, and we need one fast. The Apex Corp account is too big and too valuable to leave without strong, daily leadership." He looked directly at me, his expression firm. "I need you to handle the hiring process. Find us someone strong, someone we can trust not to mess this up." I immediately got to work with Pamela from HR to review the flood of applications. Company policy preferred internal transfers for senior roles, so we looked there first. About a week later, a new email from HR arrived in my inbox. The subject line was straightforward: internal transfer candidate, sales manager, your division. I clicked open the attached PDF resume, expecting to see a stranger's name and career history. My eyes scanned the top of the document, and my heart literally seemed to stop for a second, a cold shock freezing me in my chair. The name at the top, in bold font, was Brittany Miller. My Brittany. My sister-in-law. The resume listed her achievements and her now failing company. A handwritten note from Pamela was scanned at the bottom. "Driven salesperson with a strong record, but needs firm managerial guidance. Thinks she knows best. Your call, Sophie." I stared at the bright computer screen, my mind racing, my lunch churning in my stomach. This couldn't actually be happening. It felt like a bizarre, cruel joke. Of all the hundreds of companies in the city, she had applied to mine. Of all the departments at InnovateX, she was applying for a job in the one that reported directly to me. The irony was so thick and profound I could almost taste it, a metallic tang in my mouth. The woman who told me I had no ambition, who belittled my career, was now asking for a job that would place her directly under my authority. I leaned back in my expensive office chair, 1,000 conflicting emotions warring inside me, pure shock, simmering anger, and a small, undeniable, and guilty sense of poetic justice. I sat there for a long time, just thinking. I had a clear choice to make. I could so easily, reject her transfer. I could tell HR, with complete honesty, that her personality might not be a good fit for a team that required collaboration and humility. It would have been the easiest thing in the world, a simple click of a button. But that action felt petty and small. It wasn't who I was. I had built my entire career and my self-respect on being fair, professional, and judging people on their work, not my personal history with them. I took a deep, shaky breath, and drafted an email to Pamela in HR. "I have reviewed Brittany Miller's file," I wrote, my fingers steady on the keyboard. "I approve the transfer. Please proceed with the standard onboarding process." I hit the send button before I could second-guess myself. I would give her the fair chance she had never, ever given me. The following Monday, Brittany was scheduled to start her new role. I asked my assistant, Maria, to send her to my office for a welcome meeting at 10 a.m. sharp. I sat at my large, mahogany desk, my stomach a tight knot of nerves. I straightened the framed photo of my team and me at a company retreat. Right at 10 o'clock, there was a crisp, confident knock on my door. "Come in," I said, my voice thankfully calm and steady. The door opened, and there she was. Brittany walked in with her head held high, that familiar, overly confident smile plastered on her perfectly made-up face. She was looking around my corner office, taking in the nice furniture and the impressive view from my window, until her eyes finally, inevitably, landed on me, sitting behind the large desk in the boss's chair. Her brilliant, confident smile vanished in an instant. It was like someone had flipped a switch, draining all the color and light from her face. Her face went pale, and her mouth dropped open slightly in stunned disbelief. She looked from my face to the polished nameplate on my desk that read Sophie Miller, Director of Operations, and back again, her brain struggling to compute the scene in front of her. "Sophie," she finally said, her voice a confused, weak whisper. What are you doing in here?" I kept my expression perfectly neutral and calm, the way I had learned to do in difficult board meetings. I gestured gracefully to the comfortable chair positioned in front of my desk. "Please have a seat, Brittany. As the Director of Operations, this is my office. I wanted to personally welcome you to the division and discuss your first-week priorities." You could almost see the mental pieces crashing together in her mind, the dawning horror of her new reality. Her eyes widened as the full, humiliating truth of the situation slammed into her. She wasn't just joining a new company. She wasn't just another sales manager starting a new chapter. She was reporting to me. The sister-in-law she had publicly shamed and labeled as ambitionless was now her direct boss, the person who would sign her performance reviews, approve her budgets, and hold her career in her hands. The confident, glamorous woman who had walked in moments before seemed to physically shrink, her shoulders slumping. She slowly, awkwardly sank into the chair I had offered, completely and utterly speechless for the first time since I'd known her. The power dynamic between us had not just shifted, it had been completely and irrevocably reversed. The first few weeks of her employment were incredibly awkward and tense. Brittany tried to act as if nothing was wrong, as if our history and our new professional relationship were perfectly normal, but the strain was obvious to everyone. She started trying to go around me almost immediately, attempting to reestablish a sense of control. She'd schedule one-on-one meetings with my boss, Ben, to pitch her big ideas and revolutionary strategies directly to him, bypassing me completely. But Ben was a smart and experienced man. He understood and respected the chain of command. After her second attempt, he simply forwarded her lengthy email directly to me with a single, terse line at the top, "Sophie, this is for your wheelhouse. Please handle." He always, without fail, sent her right back to me. It was a clear, unmistakable message to both of us that his trust in my judgment was absolute, and she would have to learn to work through me. Then, about 2 months in, she made a catastrophic mistake. We were in the final stages of courting a massive new client, Apex Corporation. It was a deal that could single-handedly define our entire fiscal year. In a desperate, reckless attempt to prove her worth and secure a colossal, commission-heavy sale, Brittany went completely rogue during a key client dinner. She passionately promised the Apex team a customized, complex software feature we had only discussed in preliminary, hypothetical meetings. She guaranteed this feature, and she gave them an aggressive, wildly optimistic timeline that every senior member of my operations team knew was physically impossible to meet, just to sweeten the deal and look like a hero. She was so intensely focused on the flashy, immediate sale that she didn't bother to check with my operations team first. She didn't ask me. She didn't ask anyone. A week after that fateful dinner, my direct line rang. It was Mr. Henderson, the stern, no-nonsense head of Apex Corporation. He was furious, his voice a low, controlled thunder. "Your sales manager, Brittany Miller, promised us the moon," he barked into the phone. "My technical team just had a meeting with your developers, and they said this feature is months, maybe a year, away from even being planned, let alone developed. I feel completely and utterly misled." He then coldly threatened to pull the entire multi-million-dollar contract and take their business to our main competitor. My blood ran cold, and a wave of nausea washed over me. This wasn't just a small error in judgment. This was a professional catastrophe that could cost our company a fortune and permanently destroy our hard-won reputation for reliability and honesty. And Brittany, with her reckless ambition, was standing at the very center of the storm she had created. Ben was absolutely livid. He stormed into my office without even knocking, his face flushed a dark red. "What the hell happened with Apex, Sophie?" he demanded, slamming a printout of the client's angry email onto my desk. I took a steadying breath and explained the entire situation, showing him the internal emails and project timelines that proved Brittany had made these promises without any consultation with my team. "This is a fireable offense," he said, his voice tight with barely suppressed rage. "A completely fireable offense. You handle it. You're her direct manager. This is your call, 100%. He turned and left, slamming the door behind him, leaving me alone in the sudden, heavy silence with the weight of the decision. I had the absolute, unquestionable power to terminate her employment on the spot for gross misconduct. This was the moment of ultimate consequence, the dramatic, high-stakes moment I never knew I had been waiting for. I asked Maria to have Brittany come to my office immediately. When she walked in a few minutes later, she looked truly terrified, her confidence completely shattered. She knew exactly what this was about. The bold, brash saleswoman was gone, replaced by a pale, nervous woman who could barely bring herself to meet my eyes. "Sophie, I am so sorry," she blurted out before I could even speak, her voice trembling and weak. "I was just trying to secure the account, to make a big win for the team. I thought I could pressure the developers into making it work." She was wringing her hands together, a picture of misery, waiting for me to pronounce her professional doom. She was completely expecting to be fired on the spot, and she had no one to blame but herself. I looked at her across the wide expanse of my desk. I saw the raw, stark fear in her eyes, the shame in her posture, and I realized I didn't feel the triumphant, gloating satisfaction I had sometimes imagined I would. Instead, I felt a deep, surprising sense of pity. This wasn't a clean, satisfying victory. It was just a messy, complicated problem that threatened my team and my company. "I'm not going to fire you, Brittany," I said, my voice calm but firm, leaving no room for argument. Her head snapped up in shock, her eyes wide with disbelief. You're not," she stammered. I shook my head slowly. "Everyone makes serious mistakes. But real character, real strength, is shown not in the mistake itself, but in how you work to fix it. Your only job right now is to do everything in your power to help me fix this massive problem you created. I immediately called an emergency meeting with my 5 best senior developers and most experienced project managers. I deliberately did not invite Brittany. Her presence would have been a distraction. For the entire grueling weekend, we camped out in the main conference room. We ordered pizza and copious amounts of coffee, and we worked tirelessly, around the clock, analyzing the existing codebase, the resource allocation, and every single project timeline. We argued, we brainstormed, and we finally found a workable compromise. A scaled-back, phased version of the feature that we could deliver surprisingly quickly, along with a revised, realistic, and transparent schedule for the full tool. By late Sunday night, exhausted but victorious, we had a solid, credible salvage plan to present to Apex Corporation. It was my team's incredible talent and my own focused, determined leadership that had miraculously dug us out of the very deep hole Brittany's ambition had created. On Monday morning, I gathered the entire division for an all-hands meeting to update them on the Apex situation. Brittany slipped in and sat in the very back row, trying to make herself as small and invisible as possible. I stood at the front of the room, feeling the weight of everyone's attention. I want to thank every single one of you who gave up your weekend, who sacrificed your personal time to help us navigate a serious challenge. I began, my voice clear and strong, carrying across the silent room. Your dedication, your incredible skill, and your unwavering commitment to this company are what saved the Apex account. I am so profoundly proud to work with such a talented, resilient, and reliable group. I then praised each key team member by name, detailing their specific contribution. I never once mentioned Brittany's name. She had to sit there and watch, silently, humbly, as the very people she had always considered beneath her, the quiet workers, saved her career and her reputation. In that moment, she finally understood that raw ambition meant nothing without integrity, and that loud, empty boasts were utterly worthless compared to quiet, reliable, and decisive action. She never questioned my authority or my leadership again. My ultimate victory wasn't in having power over her, it was in finally, fully becoming the confident, capable leader I had always known, deep down I could be.